All right, let's move on to part 3 of today's lesson. For this part, you're going to need your math journal opened up to pages 240 and 241. You're also going to need your pencil. Remember, anytime I do writing on the screen of my math journal, you need to be copying that into your own math journal. Anytime I'm moving too quickly, you can always pause your video, write down your notes into your journal, and then turn the video back on once you're caught up. Problem 1 says, each member of the flute section of the Briar Woods Elementary School Band practiced for 2 3/5 hours last week. There are 5 flute players. What is the total number of hours that they practiced? Let's start by using some of our cube strategy. First, we know each player practiced 2 3/5 hours last week. And there are a total of 5 flute players. What we're trying to figure out is what is the total number of hours that they practiced. That word each up here can tell us that we can multiply or divide, and we know that we are trying to figure out the total or the full amount they played all together. So that lets us know we're going to be multiplying. What we are going to multiply is 5 flute players times 2 3/5 hours per player. And I'm going to put H as my unknown since we're going to report our answer in hours down at the bottom. Now part B says we need to solve this in 2 different ways, but I'm good with just one. So for this part, we're going to start by multiplying our whole number times the whole number over here in our mixed fraction. So 5 times 2, 5 times 2 equals 10. Then we'll take our whole number times our fraction. So 5 times 3/5. Put the 5 over 1 and then multiply across. And we get an improper fraction as our answer. But we know that 5 can go into 15 3 times evenly because 5 times 3 is 15. Then we can put our 2 products together. 10 for the first product plus 3 for the second one equals a total of 13 hours. So those 5 band members, when you put their time together, they practiced a total of 13 hours. But the next part wants us to say that amount in minutes. So to go from hours to minutes, we need to multiply by 60. So 13 hours times 60 minutes in every hour will give us our next answer. Now multiplying 13 times 60 can be kind of hard because those are big numbers. So let's make it easier. Let's just multiply 13 times 6, then we can add that 0 on at the end. So I'm going to go over here and rewrite my problem so it's up and down instead of horizontal. 13 times 6. First we solve our 6 times the 1, which is worth 10. That equals 60. Then our 6 times the 3 is 18. Add those together and we have a total of 78. But remember, we're just solving 13 times 6 there. We're really trying to solve 13 times 60 and we left that 0 off. So in our answer, we'll write our 78, but then we need to add on that 0. So 13 hours is equivalent to 780 minutes. That's the answer we got when we multiplied 13 times 60. If you need to pause your video now to finish showing your work before you go on, go ahead and do that now, then turn it back on when you're ready. And then we'll go on to part D. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do part E. We already did D. Part E is taking our answer from part D and then telling what that is equivalent to in seconds. For part D, I'm going to make a note up here to myself. We said part D equals 780 minutes. We need to see what 780 minutes is equivalent to in seconds. So that means we need to take that 780 and multiply it times 60, because there are 60 seconds in every minute. Again, let's make this easy and just multiply the 78 times 6, then we can add on our 2 zeros there at the end. So I'm going to write this vertically, 78 times 6. First multiply my 6 times my 7, which is really worth 70. 6 times 7 is 42, and then add on the 0. Then we can multiply our 6 times our 8. 6 times 8 equals 48. Then add those up. So 78 times 6 equals 468. But don't forget, we were really trying to multiply 780 times 60. So we need to add 2 zeros onto our answer. So 780 minutes is equivalent to 46,800 seconds. Now for number 2 and number 3, we're going to do these together. I'm going to get them set up for you, then you're going to solve them, then you'll come back and check your work with me. So for number 2, we have to multiply 3 times 3 and 2/10. And we've talked about how you want to set these up. First, we want to multiply our whole numbers. So first, you're going to multiply 3 times 3. Then you're going to take your whole number and multiply it by the fraction. So 3 times 2/10. Then you'll put your two products together, and that'll give you your final answer. You'll do that as your step 3. And remember, anytime that you get an improper fraction as your answer, you have to convert it to a mixed number. You'll do the same process for number 3. You'll multiply your whole numbers, so 2 times your 7, then multiply your whole number times your fraction, 2 times 7/10. Then you'll take your first product and your second product, and then you will add them together to get your final answer. So what you need to do now is pause your video, solve number 2, solve number 3, then turn it back on and we'll check your work together. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 2. When you multiplied 3 times 3, you should have had 9 as that answer. And then, 3 times 2/10, you should have multiplied your numerators, then your denominators, and then you get 6/10 as your answer there. And since that is already written as a proper fraction, you can just add your 9 plus your 6/10, and that gives you 9 and 6/10 as your answer. Now you could reduce that, but if you left it as 9 and 6/10, I would be totally fine with that. It could have been reduced down to 9 and, 6 divided by 2 is 3, 10 divided by 2 is 5, so it could have been 9 and 3/5. Now for number 3, when multiplying the whole numbers, you should have gotten 14. Then when you multiply 2 times 7/10, you should have gotten 14/10. That's an improper fraction. 10 goes into 14 one time with 4 left over and 10 as your denominator. Then you would add your 14 plus your 1 4/10 for a total of 15 4/10. So for number 3, your answer should have been 15 4/10. That could have been reduced down to 15 and, let's see, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it could have also been 15 2/5 if you reduced it down to lowest terms. Once you have all of your work written down for problem number 2 and number 3, we will move on. Problem number 4, that's the one you're going to do all on your own, and then you will record your answers on the Google form. Question number 4 says, the trumpet section of the band has 3 more members than the flute section. Each trumpet player practiced for 1 9/10 hours last week. How many hours did the trumpet players practice in all? We know that when they practice, each one practiced for 1 9/10. And how many trumpet players are there? They said there are 3 more members than the flute section. They didn't say just 3 members. They said 3 more than the flute section. But if you remember, in the flute section, I believe there were 5 flute players. So you need to go up here to the top, and where it says 3, you need to write 3, then plus 5. So we're talking about a total of 8 people in the trumpet section. So if there are 8 people in the trumpet section and each one plays for 1 9/10 hours, we want to know how many hours did the trumpet players practice in all. On part B, it says you need to do it 2 ways. You do not. You can mark out another way. Just do it one. And when you give your number model with the unknown, you can use H for hours for the unknown. Then you're going to have to convert that answer into minutes and then convert that answer into seconds. Remember, there's 60 minutes in 1 hour and 60 seconds in 1 minute. You can stop your video or pause your video now and go ahead and solve parts A, B, C, D, and E in your math journal. Then you can go into the Google form to record these answers. After that, we'll move on to the very last video. That'll be part 4. That'll be our math boxes section for the day.